Welcome back to another episode of the Film Study with your host, Girth and Amin. And on this episode, we're talking all things Clemson football. Let's get into it. Please don't welcome back. So, this is my return episode for the film study. Kieran's about to go do his return episode for the jump. We've been swamped with work for these last couple of months, but now we're ready to get right back to it, and we're bringing you the best content we can about college football as a whole. So let's get into it. Today we're talking about how there is a lot riding on this Clemson football season. So last year, Clemson had the number 15 overall recruiting class, and they picked up some really good players. Most notably was Sammy Brown, who was the second best linebacker in this class, and TJ Moore, the fourth best wide receiver in this class. Both these guys were five-star recruits, and they're going to have a major impact on this upcoming season. So what do I mean by this? Well, I believe that Clemson is really relying on this recruiting class as they don't get into the portal much, and that means every single class has to be so talented, both physically, mentally. They need to be really good players because there's no one else besides them. So that was last year. So we're gonna see what happens this year. But as of right now, just the recruiting, Clemson has the ninth best overall, and they brought in many four-star recruits. Yet to bring in a five-star, but they brought in lots of four-star recruits, so that's looking promising for them right now because they're higher up than they were last year.
So I know I brushed up on it, but let's really talk about the recruiting class and the transfer portal. So the reason why it's so important, the recruiting classes, is because Dabo Sweeney does not believe in the transfer portal. So as of right now, there are only 4 teams that have not even accessed the portal at all, and 3 of those teams are the U.S. military schools. So that is the Army, Navy, Air Force. Now, you have to understand that these 3 schools are not allowed to enter the transfer portal because all of their members of their team are in the military. So no one can transfer in that's not military. But Clemson, you very much can because Clemson doesn't have a rule on it. Except Dabo Sweeney has implemented this idea that the transfer portal should not be a thing, that you should play it like we've always had to for the last multiple years, where you bring in the talent on your own, you recruit them, and then you develop them and you send them off to the NFL. Now, that's going to be a major, major struggle because, look, the good side of what Dallas Reed's talking about is that every player he brings in, he is trusted. He's looked at them personally at the high school level and said, okay, we really think you can make a major impact. And that player progresses from each stage, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, until they're out of the league, or even better. But that means they are fully developed in the system that Clemson wants. The only downside to this is that Clemson players, or the ones that are transferring into Clemson or trying to get in, they are also really, really good, talent-wise. And what I mean by this is that you can have a player who's a previous 5-star recruit who was actually having to sit the bench on Georgia, but knows there's an open position at wide receiver on Clemson, and you know he can make a major impact because you went after this guy. But since you're not letting him into the transfer portal, you're letting another team, possibly Florida State, possibly Louisville, in an ACC rivalry team, pick him up, and then you're having to play against him. So that's just a couple of reasons why you need to start believing in the transfer portal, and Dabo Sweeney not going into the transfer portal is a really big hit. Another thing we need to talk about is, of course, development. So let's talk about the most important player on the field, the quarterback position. And so I've said this multiple times. I've seen Cade Klubnik play when he was in Austin playing with Westlake against my feeder school, Bowie. He looked amazing. I could really tell that he was an outstanding quarterback. And now all we need to do is see him take what he produced at the high school level and put it into the collegiate level. Because I know he's really talented. And especially this year. So this year, the schedule that Clemson's looking at right now, they have to play UGA to open it up on August 31st. They have to play Florida State. They have to play Louisville, South Carolina. They have to play a lot of really good teams, and that's going to be detrimental to these guys if they can't get they can't get their player. They can't get Cade Klubnik to develop, to really push the team to progress and be better, especially if he's a hindrance. So what I'm trying to say is that right now, Clemson needs to win the ACC. They must, because the way it's sitting, it's a 12-team playoff, and I'm pretty sure the first 5 teams are the first 5 places. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 are reserved for the champs. So, meaning champs of each conference. So you have the SEC champion, Big 10, Big 12, FCS, and or group of 5 team, and your ACC team. What that means is that Clemson must win and must get one of those top 5 spots, because as we're looking at it right now, and I know me and Kieran have already referenced it as the Power 2, there are 2 conferences that the College Football Playoff Committee is going to be like, okay, you can get 4 slots. And that's going to be the SEC, the likes of Bama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, and the Big 10, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, just to name a couple. And they're going to look at these guys and be like, okay, out of the remaining 6 through 12 spots, we're going to have to give them a pretty good shot because they are playing the best competition in the world, and we know they're the best teams, which means all these ACC teams, maybe the runner-up, maybe the third-place team, they're going to get pushed back in line behind all these SEC teams, which means they're going to be fighting for maybe 1 to 2 playoff spots, which just makes it so much more crucial for the ACC, or just for so much crucial for the Clemson football team to win the ACC just to get a guaranteed spot. Now, all these things are very imminent on Clemson's future. If Clemson can produce, if Clemson can get back to the top and make a playoff game, and I don't even care if they win it or lose it, that just shows that they're back, that they're still really competitive, and they're still the great school we've seen them be in all the 2010s. But if they cannot, if they start losing to Miami, Florida State, Louisville, that shows that these guys are not as good as they used to be, and that's going to reflect on recruiting. Their classes are going to get significantly worse and worse and worse and worse. They're going to fall down the recruiting. But other teams, that's the problem. The SEC, Oklahoma can say, look, we may have lost a lot of our games, but we're playing the best competition in the world. Clemson can't say that. Clemson can say, yeah, we lost to Florida State, Georgia. Possibly you could say Louisville, but who else can you say? You can't say you lose to other teams like Appalachian State, like Stanford, because they're not the best. And so a lot is riding on the season. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I plan on getting you so much more content. Just a reminder, Kieran will not be on this episode on the Snap podcast as he is out of town, but I plan on bringing you as much content as I can. And just for this change in background, I'm right now in Mexico City, but that won't stop me producing as much as I can for y'all. Peace.